We're blue now. I love these lights. But yeah, you read the title correctly. Dean Guitars are dying, and it's not a clickbait title. It's not even me who said it. The parent company of Dean Guitars, Armadillo Enterprises, has been described as, and I quote, in the throes of death. And that description didn't just come from anybody either. It came from a court document filed by the co-owner of Dean and its parent company Armadillo. But how did we get here? What went wrong? Well, several things. So today we're going to look at them. Some of them you might be aware of, some of them you probably aren't. Let's start with one of those ones that you are aware of. In 2019, Gibson Guitars announced that they were suing Dean and their parent company Armadillo. They wanted Dean to stop making the Z and V shapes, which are a V and Explorer style shape, that Dean had been making since the 70s. It was a staple in the Dean lineup, and Gibson won. Dean put up a fight and did so for years, and as far as I can see still are doing so in way of an appeal. But, as it stands, Dean are prohibited from making or selling the V or Z shapes in the US. And this was obviously a major blow to Dean. They lost two very well known and popular shapes in their lineup. Of course they could make them for the EU or the rest of the world, but Dean have always been mainly most popular in the US. And since the court decision, I haven't seen these shapes available in the rest of the world either. They're not even on the Dean website. And then of course there's the other knock-on effect. It's been well documented that over the last few years, a number of high-profile Dean artists have left the company. But of those that have stayed, there are still some well-known names like Michael Schenker or Eric Peterson from Testament. They've had their signature guitar lineup completely discontinued due to a court order. They were playing the V and Z shapes. The guitars they like can't be made anymore in the US. They can't be sold anymore in the US. Their signature lines are gone, which means that the royalty checks associated with those signature guitars are also gone. They might really like those guitars, but if they can't get any more of them, and the money that they could be making from signature guitars has dried up, what's to stop them from shopping around? It's not put Dean in a very good position. Now, speaking of signature artists leaving Dean, there was of course a very big one that left in 2021. In 2021, the Dimebag Darrell estate not only didn't renew the contract with Dean, but initiated a lawsuit for trademark violation on body shapes and breach of contract. The court case is still active as of a few days ago, but if you ask me, I'm not sure the outcome is all that important to Dean. Whether they win or lose, they've still lost one of their biggest artists, and they can't make a huge number of models that they used to. I think there was about 20, if not more, different Dimebag signature guitars made by Dean, and they can't make any of them anymore, whether they win or lose. And speaking of winning or losing, the trademark dispute was over a couple of different body shapes, the Stealth and the Razorback, which are two guitars that Dean have removed off their website as well, just adding to the list of guitars that they're not making. Which leads on to the next question, well, what guitars are they making? Well, in 2021, Dean did announce some new models, or semi-new. When Dave Mustaine left, they repackaged his signature guitars with some different specs. Same shapes, different specs. There was the V and the Explorer shape called the Vengeance and the Zero. And Zero is a pretty apt name because that's how many actually went into production. These guitars were announced in February 2021 and were supposed to be out for the fall of that year, and they're still available for pre-order on dealers' websites. I have searched and I cannot find any examples of any of them other than the prototypes from the Dean promotional video being made or being out there. I can't find any. So it's not looking promising. What else went wrong for Dean? Well, they lost a lot of public goodwill when they sent a cease and desist to a guy for posting his guitar collection on Instagram. Dean didn't like one of the guitars that he just owned and sent him a cease and desist. If you want to see that story in a lot more detail, we broke that story on this channel and the video link will be there. Did that have any major effect on Dean guitars? No, probably not. But it did indicate where the leadership at Dean was focused. The legal system. For pretty much all the events we've covered so far, the CEO at Dean was Evan Rubinson. But Evan wasn't just the CEO, he was also co-owner. And not just of Dean Guitars, but of the parent company of Dean Guitars, Armadillo Enterprises. They own Dean Guitars, Luna Guitars, and D-Drum. And Evan was CEO and co-owner alongside his mother, Pamela. And this is where things start to get a little bit messy and complicated, in the Family Feud sort of way, and not the Steve Harvey variety. In June of 2022, Pamela initiated a lawsuit against Evan for allegedly embezzling over $420,000 from a different company that the pair owned. Evan fully denies this, and this case is still ongoing. But around this same time, Evan was ousted from the position of CEO at Armadillo because his mother had 100% of the stock vote. He was voted out. Evan countersued his mother, and there's been several suits between the two and companies that they both own. It's very messy, it's very complicated, and a lot of it is not really necessary to know for what we're talking about, which is the demise of Dean Guitars. But why this is necessary is one of the complaints that Evan filed, which is publicly available, it's on record, goes into detail about Armadillo's situation, and in turn, that's Dean's situation. And it doesn't seem to be good news. I'm going to read the full paragraph because it really says a lot. Alright, so as I said, it's a bit complicated. There's a lot going on. There's different companies, different people. But this is the complaint that Evan filed. And the story is that they both Evan and Pamela own this company called Kapok. And Evan was trying to obtain accounting information and Pamela refused. So he was forced to sue her to try and get those accounts. And I'll read the paragraph from here. In response, Pamela lashed out for leverage to try and bludgeon Evan into giving up his request for information about Kapok. First, she decided to abuse her position as trustee of the trust to inflict enough harm on Evan, her beneficiary and only son, to force him to give up his Kapok accounting claim. She used her position as trustee to control shares in a company called Armadillo to remove Evan as CEO of that entity without a succession plan, knowing the company would be destined to fail as a result. She later asked Evan to return once Armadillo's failure was nearly certain. It's also worth pointing out that, as far as I can see with the information that I have, Evan has not taken up that position again. She used the gun she put to Armadillo's head to attempt to extract a resolution of the Kapok accounting claim. "Give up the Kapok claim or I will kill Armadillo," she figuratively threatened. Pamela's hostage-taking did not work. As a result, Armadillo, a trusted asset, is now in the throes of death, because Pamela, the trustee, wanted to leverage over the trust beneficiary. Now, the whole thing goes into a lot more detail. I'll link the court, there's several cases, but I'll link the stuff in the description if you want to see. Now, of course, what I've read out there is just one side of the story. And Dean does have current leadership. Pamela is the CEO, and at NAMM 3 months ago there was the announcement that Armadillo had appointed a new president. Patrick Shillette, who had previously worked for sales at Washburn and Gator Cases, as well as being the executive vice president of sales at Armadillo since 2019. So the ship isn't sailing without a captain, but as we've already documented, the ship has already hit several icebergs. And as far as Dean Guitars and the future of Dean Guitars goes, I'm not sure it matters who wins this litany of lawsuits that are going on. Whether Pamela or Evan win doesn't matter, because they still both have a level of ownership over these companies, and, well, they don't seem like business partners that are going to flourish. I'd be of the opinion that if what's left of Dean, because it's what's left at this point, is to survive, it would probably have a much better chance with a different ownership. Because as we just saw right there, according to one of the current owners, a co-owner, Armadillo, the parent company of Dean, is in the throes of death. So yeah, that was a cheery video, wasn't it? Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you like the occasional bit of industry chat, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!